Imagine running a multi-million-dollar business on Amazon for years while still working for the man at a full-time corporate job. That's what today's guest did. But now he's finally quit his day job a few years ago and has built a highly successful brand that you can now even buy in all Walmart stores. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I am your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. All right, so we've got Robert from Kaffe here in Miami, Florida. We flew all this way just to meet him. Robert, how long have you been selling online?
Well, my journey goes back all the way to actually 2012. When I started selling on Amazon and eBay. It wasn't with the current brand that I have, but sort of one thing led to another where 2019, I was able to start Kaffe products. Yeah.
So for 7 years, you're just doing like kind of like random stuff online?
Yeah, random stuff. You know, I don't know if we want to get fully into it, but essentially early on, 2012, I started selling OtterBox cases, kind of a college student sort of a dumb idea and basically got banned from Amazon. I'll admit it. And so it took me about another 5 years to get another account and finally be able to do it the right way. Yeah.
Okay. What were you doing for gainful employment at this time?
So I had a full career. You know, I majored in finance, started working as a financial analyst for a couple of years.
Where'd you go to school?
Kennesaw State University and Georgia Tech. I got my MBA as well, but I was doing consulting for a while and then ultimately started working for Microsoft. That was my last job. So I was a senior finance manager at Microsoft, all while, already running Kaffe on the side. Yeah.
Nice. So how long did you still work full-time at Microsoft before you went full-time online?
At Microsoft, I worked there for 2 years. And prior to that, so I started Kaffe mid-2019 and I kept my full-time role at Microsoft until maybe early 2023.
Oh, wow. So you stayed working full-time even while... So Kaffe was kind of like a side hustle for a while.
It was a side hustle, but at the same time, I had almost 15 employees by the time I quit. So it was really, I was the last one to kind of jump ship and, for different reasons. But, it's nice to get paid a ton of money and still be able to run your brand. Thankfully, I had a really flexible role, but at the end of the day, what I wanted to do was be full-time, with a business.
What made you go into the coffee niche?
Basically, I had another brand. Okay, so like not just in 2012, but like after I got another account. This must have been 2016 or 17, and I started a notebooks and planners brand. So think of like a paper planner, like undated. And I scaled that to 6 figures really the first year, and it just kind of like lingered at that amount of sales. And so I kept, through research and different tools and just friends in the space, I kind of kept seeing that home and kitchen and, health and wellness or whatever those categories would scaling a lot more. And so, one thing led to another, a lot of Alibaba, a lot of supplier talking, but, I figured I could get behind coffee just because, I drink coffee and understand it. And, I thought there was an angle there.
Were you looking at it strictly from kind of like a passion viewpoint and like, hey, I'm a little bit knowledgeable, or were there any indications in the market where it's like, hey, I don't think there's that much competition, or you're like, hey, there is competition, but I think I can beat them?
Yeah, so I think a combo of both. But like if you think about it, most people know about coffee, right? You either drink it or you obviously know what it is. And it's obviously a category that's sort of growing. And the way I saw it was that, if I got into the coffee space, there's obviously, thousands of coffee brands, but in reality, most of the coffee brands that are out there, they focus on coffee beans, right? So if you go to a grocery store or you go, wherever, coffee shop, they have nicely branded coffee beans. They know all about coffee making process and everything, but there's not many actual coffee brands that are known, for the accessories, like even coffee machines, right? So it's mostly like coffee bean brands, and, a lot of legacy players that compete kind of like all over the home have some coffee products, but they're not necessarily known for it, right? Like a good example, I don't know, Cuisinart, right? Or KitchenAid, everybody knows those brands. They do make like a coffee grinder, right? For example, but they're also known for making refrigerators or, stoves or whatever it is. So, I thought, with a name like Kaffe and just like truly dialing in all the areas of the coffee making process, I thought there would be an angle there.
Are you still selling the first Kaffe product that you had started?
Yeah, so I'll show you here. This one right here. It's basically a basic coffee grinder. So
12,000 reviews already. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so if you see it on Walmart as well, we're still literally selling that same exact product. I forgot where it went here, but basically it was the first product I launched, and it was there it is, still a bestseller within Walmart, 1,000+ reviews. And it's at every Walmart store in the U.S. So it just so happened the first product I ever launched, some years later, was actually the first product we got into Walmart store. So it's come a long way, and it is just a simple coffee grinder, but at the same time, I thought it looked sleek enough, and we could brand it well enough that it would make an impact there.
In your first year of sales of this product, do you remember about what kind of gross revenue you did?
With Kaffe, so I launched mid 2019. We must have did a couple $100,000 the rest of that year. Mm-hmm. And obviously 2020 was a big difference because that was COVID. So I basically launched the brand 6 or 7 months before kind of COVID hit, and that took another trajectory there. But yeah.
Okay, and then how long did you run with just one product or under the Kaffe brand before you launched your second one?
It wasn't too long, actually. So from the beginning, I knew I didn't want to just have like a coffee grinder listing and that would be the whole brand. So I did always try to build a catalog even before there was any demand for it, or before we could even push too hard on other products because of capital resource constraints. But I did have maybe like 5 other products within like 6 months. So at least they were there and building up the catalog.
What role in the early days did Helium 10 play in the Kaffe journey?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of research done through it, like the Chrome plugin was always key. I still to this day use it basically daily. A lot of the keyword research, obviously it's a pretty self-explanatory product, coffee grinder, but there is so many like keywords that are sort of longer tail.
I got a question for you on that because you made me think of something. When people think of keyword research, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to find all the variations of coffee grinder.
Yeah.
But one really finds out how different people search for the same product. I know you know my coffin shelf that I sell, right?
Yeah.
One of the converting words is this word. It's a half Japanese and half English word. It's called kawaii decor. Kawaii means like cute or something.
Okay.
Never in a million years would I have ever thought that somebody would want or search and buy a coffin shelf by searching cute or kawaii decor.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you have a kawaii decor moment where you're looking through Helium 10, you're like, people search this keyword to find a coffee grinder?
Yeah, well, an interesting one was, I mean, there's a couple, but basically the Spanish version of coffee grinder, molinillo de café, which was just like, oh, wow, enough people search on Amazon in Spanish that it makes a difference. And so, Kaffe is how you say coffee in Spanish too, right? So like Spanish people will say, oh, wow, that brand sounds like it, in Spanish. European people will say, wow, that's literally how you spell cafe, coffee shop, like in German. And so like it's very relatable to other languages. And I did not realize literally on Amazon.com, not Amazon.Mexico, that people are searching, in Spanish.
And I saw that in Helium 10 that it had some search volume and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. You did a few $100,000 that first year. Which year was your best year of overall sales, like across the board?
Are we talking just Amazon or overall?
Overall,
probably 2024.
Okay.
23, 24 were pretty great.
And how much was that about?
Right around 8 figures.
8 figures? Okay. And then how about what chunk did Amazon play in that?
It played probably a little less than half. It was probably in the 35 to 40%.
Still multi-million dollars on Amazon.
Yeah. On Amazon, it was mid 7 figures at our peak just by Amazon alone. Yeah.
Now thinking about what you were doing on Amazon, which is a big chunk of your pie, like if you weren't using Helium 10, like you didn't see all the keywords and you were just like going off of what information you had available or whatever comes from advertising, what kind of hit would your brand take? Like what percentage of your sales do you think comes from stuff and insights, keywords, whatever that you found from Helium 10?
Yeah, it's certainly something that the team uses every day. and something that would take even more team members if we didn't have Helium 10. And not just like the amount of time it would take, but definitely like you're saying, like some lost revenue, some market share, decline there. The reason being that, through Helium 10 and like alerts and all these things that we're able to set up, we find out right away, when, for example, a new competitor is coming in and they're attacking, they're going hard after reviews or going hard after, like our keywords. We would find out right away. And like the earlier you find out, the more sort of the ways of mitigating it are, right? So if you see a brand new player, it's not the same kind of like competing against them and taking up their ad space like in their listing when they have barely any reviews. Then once they're a little more established, it's kind of like harder to do. So it's definitely something that saves us tens of hours a week, just because we used to analyze keyword ranking, for example, right? That was something we would do by hand, open up a browser like on incognito and see where you're at. Like
1, 2, 3, 4,
and then
5.
Like, okay, no, that one was an ad. That one was an ad. Okay, no, that's the real organic one, and start counting from there. And like that's just one keyword, and there's hundreds of keywords. So like being able to like filter by keyword size, and just like different keywords have different strategies, right? Like your main keyword will have a different strategy than like your longer tail, but you still want to have focus on those. And like without this sort of tooling, it's just not possible. I mean, you'd be there forever.
At what point did you add other channels? Like how long were you only Amazon until you're like, hey, let me start Walmart, let me start my own website, etc.?
I think I had that vision from very early on. So essentially from day one, I was almost trying to get new channels, So funny story is that the first order for coffee grinders that I ever placed was 3,000 grinders. Okay. And when the grinders were on their way to the US, obviously the plan was to sell just on Amazon, right? Like that's the only place we kind of had permission to sell. But I went on LinkedIn and found a buyer for TJ Maxx Home Goods at the time. And, given we didn't have we didn't have a website finished yet. We didn't have an Amazon listing because we were just now about to launch it. And the guy decided to take a flyer and buy 2,000 of them. So before before we officially launched the product, even on Amazon, it was technically sitting on a retail shelf, So that's kind of from early on, the goal was to get to retail eventually. Like, the packaging and everything we did from early on was with that mission in mind. But to speak to online channels, we started selling on Target.com as vendors very early on, maybe 2020, early 2021. We started selling on Macy's.com, HomeDepot.com, Walmart.com. I mean, just you name it, and we've probably tried that channel. And that was with the goal of being sort of omni-channel and not as reliant on just one channel.
Yeah, I see here on your website, I see Macy's, Fair, TikTok Shop, Amazon, Walmart, etc. And obviously, this is a website in itself. Now, what's your message to other brands out there? Why is it important that they do omni-channel? I mean, you were kind of early to the game. I think not a lot of people were thinking as omni-channel as you were back in 2021, but nowadays it seems to be trending more. Why is it so important to not just be on Amazon or not just have your own website?
Yeah, I mean, you have to meet your customers where they're at, So obviously Amazon's a huge chunk. Everybody has an Amazon account, it seems, and they would buy there, but they may not find you on there, right? So if they're scrolling TikTok, and they find you on there, even if they don't buy in TikTok Shop, they may go to Amazon, or they like going on Shopify and finding it off your website. But you kind of have to meet the customer where they're at. And nowadays with tooling and automation and stuff, it doesn't take quite the amount of lift that it once did to sell on multiple channels, right? So if before, to sell on multiple channels, that means the orders had to come in, you had to go print a label and then go back to that channel and sort of like put in manually the tracking number, accept the order, cancel, whatever. Where now there's all sorts of toolings for the orders to just come in, flow in, print a label, it puts it right back to where it needs to be. Even with Walmart fulfillment services, sort of like the FBA, Amazon FBA. Definitely TikTok Shop has similar things. So, there's no excuse to be selling on just one channel nowadays, right? You could have one channel that's your main channel, of course, but you need to be elsewhere, to have it almost like seem bigger from the beginning, right? Like, and that's your chance to go into retail and other opportunities that come up is when buyers look at your brand and wow, you're like everywhere, right? Seemingly you're everywhere. They probably think you're a lot bigger than you even are, and that's why they may give you a shot to be in the stores.
Is Walmart in store a big chunk also of your revenue?
Now it is, yeah. So it's at least 50%.
Would you ever have been there if you didn't have an established presence on Amazon and Walmart.com first?
No. I mean, the buyer, I've been to Walmart headquarters maybe 6 times, including before going live, just to like pitch. And the buyer literally told us, like even in the meeting, in our line review meeting, the buyer had our Amazon store sort of pulled up, And so she knew exactly, she was probably using the same kind of tools. She was telling us how much we had retailed for, or like why we're running a certain sale, and just like our review count. So definitely they're very aware of what's going on Amazon.
Cool. So that's another reason of why, hey, be multi-channel and start online, because you probably would not have all these, this millions of dollars of revenue at Walmart stores if you weren't known. I'm sure sometimes maybe somebody invents something really cool, but that's another point there. TikTok Shop is kind of different almost than all the other channels you mentioned here. Faire, Amazon, Walmart, very similar vibes, even a website. How have you had to change your strategy as you expanded to TikTok Shop?
Yeah, I think, and not everyone thinks this through like that, but there are certain products that work better on TikTok Shop, right? Obviously, even within our catalog of products, there's certain products that work better on TikTok Shop. And what do I mean by that? Think of a product that looks nice on a video. Think of a product that looks very interesting when you're just watching a reel type of like a quick video. I'll give you an example. If it's just a coffee machine and you're pressing the button, the coffee's coming out. Like that may not be the most interesting product necessarily for TikTok Shop, right? But if you think of, for example, our handheld milk frothers, right, where you kind of like you press the button and then you mix something, like the act of mixing and the milk foaming and just kind of like the coffee coming together, that is something more, like people will be attracted to that a lot more video style than if you would like a more boring kind of product where there's not much to video. That goes there. Products that have more margin, obviously, so you're able to kind of spend more on the marketing side. But yeah, certainly we learned that by just trial and error. Not every product works as well like on TikTok Shop.
What's one of the biggest disasters or struggles you've had as a business owner? Like something unexpected, and it really gave you guys a big hit. And then how did you get out of that hole?
Let's see, which one should I?
We're not trying to scare you guys. We just keep it real.
No, we keep it real.
Selling online is not all rainbows and unicorns,
Yeah, every business is this way, right? Like there's just a lot of trial and error and a lot of mistakes. I can name, paying an influencer $30,000 to not really move the needle. Short shipping an order for Walmart that I then had to air ship a couple pallets. It cost about $30,000 itself just to air ship something. A lot on the Amazon ads side. For a while, we were kind of overspending before we really optimized our campaigns. That's very easy to do. So you just kind of leave a campaign running. And we had so many campaigns that, we were not necessarily like looking into it or seeing where the wasted spend was going.
That's where Helium 10 ads could have helped you a little bit on there.
For sure. Yeah. And ever since, like, we really structure it more to where we're able to make, decisions a lot quicker just by looking at campaign names, for example. So yeah, a lot of different ways to lose money or, waste money if you're not careful. But at the same time, the way I saw it in business, I was always willing to take a risk, sort of like spend upfront to see like what led to what. And that's what has led us to, for example, be at Walmart stores or have made other breakthroughs in other channels that, we may not have otherwise done if we were just penny pinching.
Scared money don't make money.
Right?
So now, flip side, what's some of the biggest surprises, positive, like, oh my God, like amazing Prime Day or some crazy, campaign just went off or big product launch that did better than your wildest imagination, something like that?
Yeah. I have a pretty unique one. So this was a couple years back, but there's a marketplace. It's not a marketplace, okay? But it's a gift giving website, okay, called Snappy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Snappy, but you wouldn't even hear of it because you have to go through like Miracle, which is like a platform of different marketplaces. essentially, we onboarded on there. It's a random gift giving. So a company can go on there and get their employees like gifts, and they use like fake money to buy products, but essentially they're giving you real money, right? Like to the vendor they are. And we onboarded there probably on October or like late September. I want to say a couple years back, right? And basically within that Q4, not even Q4, like November and December, we did almost like $300,000 or $400,000 in sales at like a 50% like net profit or some crazy stuff like that, where we were like, whoa, like, what is going on? It's like a channel you would have never expected, right? No one even knows what that channel is. And that, that thrill is like, whoa, like you just found like a needle in a haystack kind of moment. So that was awesome.
I just realized my coffin shells would never do well there. Like no company is going to buy all their employees a bunch of coffin shells. They're like, what are you trying to tell us here? What's going on? But coffee, like, okay, that I get. That's a very good one. Do you keep selling on that platform?
Yeah, we've kept selling on there. Another cool story like that is Faire. By now, Faire, a wholesale platform is very popular, but I think we were very early on to Faire. I think 2021. And the way it came about was really interesting. Just I was on a road trip down the US 1, West Coast, just coming down, and I stopped at a random kind of boutique store, or I don't know if it was a coffee shop or something, and they had like so many different products for sale, right? Like so many different brands and everything that I knew that the owner of that coffee shop had not just gone sourcing all those to the brands itself. So me being curious, I see a lady like in the corner sort of like taking inventory or something, writing down, I strike up a conversation. Like, where do you guys source from? Like it's clear that you don't make all these products and you're not in contact with that many vendors. And she said Faire.com. And I said, noted. So as soon as I got home, we signed up for Faire.com, and we do multiple six figures there every year. And the best part of that is not even the money. It's just that we're in over, I want to say 3,000 or 4,000 stores in the US just from Faire. And so I get random text messages from friends like, hey, I was in a coffee shop in Arizona and like, this is your product? Like, what is it doing here? And it's just like, that feels so good. Like seeing your product out in the wild. It's like one of the best feelings for sure.
Speaking of that, let's double down on that. I see you on Instagram before. You would always post like, it seems like whenever you go to a new Walmart or in a different state, you're like looking for your product. How does it feel just to know that there are tens of thousands, now maybe hundreds of thousands of people around the country that have your product and are like drinking coffee from it like every day, and it's something you created? Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, no, it never gets old. Okay, I've gone to an Airbnb before, stay there, and they have my coffee grinder. Or man. Like I went to a friend of a friend's house, and we went there, and they had my coffee grinder. That was just like, what? Like, what is going on? It never gets old.
And then you tell them like, hey, that's my product.
Yeah, of course I had to. But yeah, no, it's like going into a Walmart and just seeing your product on the shelf. Like before that ever happened, that was like a dream. Like of course, like how you couldn't even fathom like how does a product get into Walmart? And like you would hear these stories of like, oh, this company or this guy has some product at Walmart and like it's killing or whatever. Like you just want to be like, it's Walmart. It's everywhere. Like to know that you're always like, the unreal thing for me is like I'm always within a couple miles of a product of mine. Like however it got there, but it's really like I can go a couple miles away and that product that originated from my factory and it touched my warehouse in Georgia, like is within there somewhere, and it never gets old seeing a Walmart truck pull up to our warehouse and just kind of load it up and go. Like it's really rewarding.
Are you only in North America right now, or have you expanded to Europe or Asia?
Strictly North America. Yeah.
Any plans for
the thing with Europe is we sell electrical products and they have a different plug, so that alone just causes so much kind of like logistical sort of issues within our supplier. We've had few orders here and there, like more like wholesale or like things like that to Europe, but there's just so many retailers within the US that we could go into, like that's like a big sort of strategy of ours is to, not just the online part, but like expanding our physical footprint. And so, it's just kind of the beginning for us there.
What's your short and long-term goals for the brand? Like, you want to start a new brand? You want to expand more? Is it just revenue based? You want to get more into retail? Like, are you trying to sell the company later? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, so I think within Kaffe, we've expanded our catalog, I think, to almost like 100 products or so. Spent a couple of years really developing that catalog. And so with the goal in mind of really expanding within physical retail. Yeah, so I went to Target headquarters last year. We were really close. We think we may be able to get in there, a couple of big grocery chains. And so like with those, it doesn't take a big lift once we have the catalog already made, right? So it's just like really like trying to further penetrate in there. And I won't say too much, but there may be a brand, in the horizon,
Okay.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
Not phone cases.
Not phone cases. Let's just say it's something you put in your mouth.
Okay. All right. That narrows it down a little bit, but that's still wide open.
Not too much.
Okay. Interesting. What would you tell to a brand out there who's already doing well? Like maybe they're a 7-figure seller across different channels. They've never used Helium 10 before. And they're like, why would I need Helium 10? I'm a 7-figure seller. Like how do you think even a sophisticated seller who hasn't used Helium 10, how can they be benefited by signing up?
Yeah, first I would say like, how did you get this far without it? But truly, like you have to know your business. You have to know exactly what is going on. Like it may not be the founder, but somebody on their team has to. I'm not exactly if they are doing it, they're spending a lot more time than they should. And if they're not doing it, they're missing out on insights truly that will help drive further. Like there may be such low-hanging fruit that they're not necessarily aware of, right? And just because they have blinders on. So I would say basically like it'll help you take a look at your business from top to bottom, especially on the Amazon side, it's every little piece you need to run your businesses within the Helium 10 tool. So I don't see how somebody could run their tools or their brand nowadays without using some sort of tool, and Helium 10 has the biggest sort of, they cover A to Z, is what I would say. Yeah.
Any plan? I'm not too much, hopefully you don't hate me for this. I'm not too much of a coffee guy myself, a little bit. I'm trying to get more into it, but I'm like into like matcha and stuff like that. Any plans for like side kind of like brand or not, maybe even under a Kaffe to get into like the matcha space or anything like that?
Yeah. So I think in more recent times we've done, we're getting a little bit more into the consumable part. We have a pretty innovative product that is coffee tea bags. So they're called steep coffee bags. So think of like a tea bag where all you need is hot water, but it has gourmet, like organic coffee inside, right? So like you could take it on a plane, you could take it, in your hotel room if there's not like fresh coffee or whatever. But to go necessarily like a branch off like that, we do sort of play the angle of matcha or whatever because we have our milk frothers. And a lot of people, myself included, I've used it for matcha. It's really cool. But we also have like French press coffee and tea makers, right? Like we really kind of like angle it that way a lot because people use those a lot for tea. But our name is literally like sounds like coffee, right? So it's kind of tough to just go in there. I think we're doubling down on the subcategories, and we really are about covering everything within the coffee making process, right? So you have your beans or whatever it is, you store them in our storage containers, you take them out and you grind them with our grinder. You take it out with our scoops. You put it on our coffee machine. You use our coffee mugs. You literally everything within the coffee making process. And it's not about having tens of products within each one of those verticals, but like really having like 2 or 3 like key ones. For example, coffee grinders. We have manual, blade, and burr grinders, right? Like so, we're well covered within just coffee. But yeah, there's so many different routes to take just in coffee itself that it'll be tough to be like a matcha brand.
Or Vietnamese coffee. I'm really into Vietnamese coffee.
For sure.
That's like my thing.
For sure, yeah. And I have talked to another founder of, she owns a Vietnamese coffee beans brand. I know it's
with the condensed milk in there.
Yeah,
oh man!
Yeah.
All right. Well, I took a red eye flight last night. I need some Kaffe grounded or grinded coffee right about now to wake up. But your story is really inspiring, from kind of like working for the man in a 9 to 5 for so many years, starting this business up on the side, and now being, you know, having nowhere in America where there's 2 miles where there's not one of your products is an amazing accomplishment. I'm very happy that Helium 10 has been able to help you with that journey, and I wish you all the success in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brad.